We begin in Lagos. A three-story building under construction collapsed on Friday night in Alagomeji, Yaba, Lagos State, trapping several people under the rubble. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, the incident occurred around 8:30 p.m. at 333 Bonu Street. Emergency teams have rescued 4 adult males who are now receiving hospital treatment. Search and rescue operations are ongoing, with the exact number still trapped unknown. NEMA, alongside Lagos Emergency Services, has cordoned off the site to ensure safety during efforts. Building collapses are common in Lagos, often due to poor construction and weak regulations. Authorities continue to warn developers and have sealed unsafe buildings in the past. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has intercepted counterfeit malaria drugs worth over 1.2 billion naira in Lagos as part of its crackdown on substandard medicines nationwide. The agency said it seized 277 cartons of fake malamal forte at a warehouse in Ilasa, Oshodi, disguised as diclofenac and falsely declared as spare parts. The medicines were illegally imported from China. NAFDAC's Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, said the operation is part of a broader effort to eliminate fake drugs. She also revealed recent enforcement raids in Lagos, Onitsha, and Aba, generating 2.5 billion in fines. Meanwhile, in Gombe, NAFDAC sensitized fruit vendors in Biliri on the dangers of carbon carbide. I beg your pardon. The agency warned that chemically ripened fruits can cause cancer and organ failure, urging sellers to adopt safer and natural methods. In a landmark move to transform Nigeria's livestock sector and improve the lives of pastoral communities, the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Rural Electrification Agency. The agreement will see solar energy powering grazing reserves across the country under the Renewed Hope agenda. News Central correspondent Betty Namweli reports.
At the signing ceremony, the Minister of Livestock Development, Ide Muktameha, described the partnership as a milestone for sustainable development. He says the initiative will breathe new life into Nigeria's 417 grazing reserves by introducing solar power grids once they are rehabilitated and resettled.
This is a non-kinetic measure to restore peace in the countryside. The provision of clean, renewable energy will have a transformative impact. It will power irrigation systems, enabling year-round access to fodder and water for livestock, thereby improving the quality of our herds. It will also bring light to these communities, enhancing security, improving access to education and healthcare, and creating new economic opportunities. This initiative will not only boost our nation's food security, but also stimulate local economies by creating jobs in the installation and maintenance of these solar systems, as well as other ripple effect economic activities in these grazing reserves.
Power is an enabler, and this morning we will be witnessing an MOU signing between the ministry and the Rural Electrification Agency, and we expect that this is going to even spur us on, because at the end of the day, both the Renewed Hope village that we're planning to build, the grazing reserves we're trying to revamp, all the value chains we're going to intervene in, we need power.
Beyond livestock production, the solar grids are expected to enhance education, healthcare, and security in grazing communities, while creating new jobs in solar installation and maintenance.
What's one of the critical things that we are working to ensure is providing electricity to unserved and underserved. And most of the work that this Ministry of Livestock Development is doing, it's within this catchment area.
For millions of headers, this is not just power for their homes, but power for a brighter future. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has threatened to mobilize its members if the Senate continues to block Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan from resuming her duties. Akpoti Uduaghan completed her 6-month suspension earlier this month, but the Senate has refused to allow her to resume her duties. Joe Ajaero, NLC president, criticized the situation, describing it as a frivolous legal technicality used to keep her off duty, calling it a violation of democracy and the rights of her constituents in Kogi Central. Akpoti Uduaghan, through her lawyer, has already given a deadline for the National Assembly clerk to restore her duties or face legal action. And meanwhile, over 300 women's rights organizations under the umbrella of Women Manifesto have condemned what they describe as the unconstitutional exclusion of Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan from the Nigerian Senate. In a statement signed by the convener, Abiola Akiyode Afolabi, the groups say that despite a federal high court ruling declaring her suspension excessive and unconstitutional, the Senate leadership has refused to reinstate her 6 months after the suspension was served. The coalition insists the continued denial of her seat undermines the rule of law, disenfranchises her constituents, and sends a dangerous signal about women's political participation, in Nigeria. They are demanding Akpoti Uduaghan's immediate reinstatement in full compliance with the court order, saying that the Senate's defiance of judicial authority is a direct assault on democracy and women's rights. To further discuss this, I'm joined by Chief Peter Ame, former National Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, and National Secretary Coalition of United Political Parties. Good afternoon, Mr. Peter. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Nigeria. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now let's dive into this. We've seen the Senate ignore a court ruling and, keep Senator Akpoti Uduaghan out even after her suspension expired. What does that say about how seriously the National Assembly takes judicial authority in Nigeria right now?
This decision of the National Assembly highlights a troubling pattern, where the National Assembly arrogance, wants to use this arrogance to supersede the constitutional authority granted to the courts, because the courts are there to intervene on issues like this, and they have come up to state clearly that the suspension is excessive and unconstitutional. And for that reason, by now, if the National Assembly is a law-abiding institution that obeys and respects the laws of our land as enshrined in section in 1999 Constitution, they should allow her to resume, because by the efficient of time, the 6 months has expired also. So it is showing this kind of arrogance and disrespect for our courts and any country, that the National Assembly, which is supposed to be an institution that is supposed to grant a lot of respect to the pronouncement of court, continue to disobey court orders. It goes a long way in undermining our democratic projection and our democratic outlook all over the world, and which also affects how the investors see Nigeria. So it is sad that in this case, where the court knows, the committee, the Senate, and as a senator representing Kogi Central in Kogi State, she's also an equal part of the stakeholders that are supposed to be determining the affairs on how good governance and the rule of law is made to protect the common man within our own district. So it is unfair that the Kogi Central constituents have been denying the democratic right, to have their voice heard at the red chambers. So it is unfair that Akpabio and those who are the principal officers of the National Assembly have continued to use whatever undemocratic means to keep her out of the Senate, because the court pronouncement is very clear, unconstitutional and excessive. And there have been precedents where even the legislative rules state clearly, and in a judgment that was set from the court, which is a precedent that the National Assembly is supposed to be obeying, it says that you should not even suspend any member beyond 14 days. So this is something that all women Nigerians and those who are interested in the survival of democracy, all of us who believe that what the Senate President and his cohorts are doing, we continue to undermine our legislative proceeding. So it is not right that she's kept out for this long, and that they are also attempting to forcefully extend are not being on in the floor to deliberate on issues that affect our constituent. It is unconstitutional and should not be allowed to stand. And to state clearly that the Senate is made of committee of equals. She's a senator. Akpabio is a senator. Whatever happens, that Akpabio now is now presiding over the affairs of the state of the Senate. Is as a result that all senators came together to appoint him and elect him as a presiding officer. So, as a presiding officer, this presiding officer authority does not overrule the rights of other senators, as it has been established in our democratic system. So for us to survive this democracy, for us to give this democracy a voice and make sure that our rights are protected, I think we must all continue to speak up and even do more than that and participate in a process that will make sure that our rights are well defended under the Constitution, because Justice Binta Yanko has stated without any reservation that this is unconstitutional and this is excessive.
Okay, we see that, critics are saying that it is just a political excuse, even the NLC. But the Senate is saying it's a legal technicality. In your view, is this about law or politics? Is there anybody that stands to gain any power or anything from keeping her out of the Senate?
Those who are in the Senate today who do not want a dissenting voice are gaining something from a situation where Nigerians will suffer, where you have no dissenting voice of reason to be able to speak when decisions are taken that are not protecting the well-being of our people. So those who are suspending her today are gaining a lot from that, and are gaining a lot also by undermining institutional framework for opposition participation, for legislative participation, and for multi-party democratic system to flourish within the National Assembly. So they are gaining something, and that thing they are gaining is in a negative way. For them, it's an advantage, where they want to be able to suppress all voices within the National Assembly. And that you find out that it is now a yes sir, yes ma, national chambers. So we cannot continue to allow that to understand, because what they are trying to do is to continue to build a state capture scenario, a state capture situation where no man can speak against their draconian reasoning and decision to take what is belonging to the general public and make it something of personal use. Today we have the Attorney General of the Federation that is supposed to be looking at laws and judgment that comes from the court and making sure that institutions of state obeys this law, so that we do not water down the potency of the rights given to this institution by the Constitution. But they have decided to look the other way, because all these things are to the interest of those who are in power today, but against the interest of those who are supposed to benefit from a proper, transparent, a proper, competitive National Assembly. So we have a challenge that what they are doing is to be able to hold on to power, and because they want to hold on to power, they are shutting down voice of reason. And this is very bad, because if you shut down voice of reason, then the insane will have control over the affairs of our state. And if you have a situation where voice of reason like that of Natasha Uduaghan is not in the Senate to be able to speak and then look at issues from a broader perspective that will enrich our democratic discussion and enrich our democratic governance, then you have a situation where Nigerians will bear the brunt of bad leadership. So it is not right that most Nigerians are not speaking out enough, because I have some concern. We are not doing enough to be able to call the National Assembly and its arrogance to order, because what they are doing, it is not backed by law. They don't have any other authority to stand on what they are doing, apart from the fact that they control state instrument of state, like the police, the DSS, that is blocking the gate and not allowing out entry into the National Assembly. Apart from that, they have no any other authority under the Constitution to have undermined our Constitution the way they have done. Because this is not against Madam Senator Natasha. It is not against the Kogi Central constituent alone. It's against the spirit and letters of our Constitution as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution, right, that allow people to have representation, that allow for fair hearing, because the foundation of this case in the first place, why it is very defective, it has she was not even granted right to fair hearing before this suspension and other activities that have kept out of the National Assembly to date.
Thank you, Chief Peter Ame, for joining us and giving us your insight on the Senate versus Senator Natasha Akpoti and her prolonged suspension. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we go on a break. When we return, Air Peace denies claim pilots tested positive for alcohol and cannabis. Join us after the break. Who is this? Who? Beshala, can you hear me?
Very loud and clear. I can hear you.
Perfect. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please, can you pronounce your last name for me so I don't murder it?
Dr. Femi Egbeshola.
Egbeshola.
Femi Egbeshola.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
I'll be with you shortly. Thank you for staying with us. To equip youths with practical skills and enhance their livelihoods, Agua & Sons Nigeria Limited, in partnership with Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, trained 50 youths in Delta State on motorbike assembly and repairs maintenance, thereby contributing to the nation's economic growth. News Central's Austin Azu completes the report.
50 select youth from Delta State trained in motorbike assembly, repairs and maintenance by Agua & Sons Nigeria Limited in partnership with Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board gathered at the Ndokwa Wives and Daughters Hall, Kwale, for their graduation ceremony. The organizer of the event, who presented certificates and toolbox to the participants, explained that the training is designed to equip youth with skills to start their own workshops and secure employment in service centers, with the ultimate goal of driving youth empowerment and economic development in the state and beyond.
For those of you that will have the opportunity to set up your own shops, do so. For those of you that feel you want to work from home, you are also free to do that, but please ensure that you put judicious use to the skills that you've learned during this 1 month.
Presley, however, appreciates President Bola Tinubu and the NCDMB for providing youth in Niger Delta with skills and employment opportunities.
The trainees, they were selected first and foremost from through a gruesome process from oil producing communities across the state. You know, NCDMB is a board that deals majorly on supervision of local content. So this is a way of the board saying that, okay, people that contribute to the economy of this country, they should benefit from the whole process.
The trainees reflected on their 1-month training experience and outlined their plans to leverage the acquired knowledge to drive societal progress and create employment opportunities.
With this great opportunity that I've gotten, I'm definitely going to do exploit with it, and I will make sure that I impart knowledge to others that are upcoming. I'm not going to keep it to myself, but I'm going to use it to make financial breakthrough for myself and to the society as well.
I'm going to establish a little shop and employ a fellow mechanic to be working there, while I also further the learning again with him as we work together and we grow together.
Attention has now shifted to the empowered youth and how they will nurture and grow their enterprises to encourage other individuals or groups to support young people in Nigeria with skills acquisition and startups to enhance youth employment in Nigeria. In Kwale for News Central, Austin Azu.
The Conference of Nigeria Political Parties and the Coalition of National Civil Society Organizations have come down hard on the federal government over its plan to obtain a fresh $1.75 billion loan from the World Bank, insisting that Nigeria does not need more debt, but rather the recovery of looted public funds. In a joint statement signed by James Ezema, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of CNPP, and Ali Abasha, National Secretary of the Coalition, the groups said they viewed with alarm the recent disclosure that the Tinubu administration is seeking fresh loans from the World Bank amounting to $1.75 billion, despite unprecedented revenue collections within the last 8 months. They warn that the move will not only undermine the government's credibility, but also plunge ordinary Nigerians into deeper suffering while eroding any hope for sustainable economic recovery. To further discuss this, I'm joined by National President of Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, Dr. Femi Egbesola. Dr. Femi, good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon and thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Femi, most small business owners are barely staying afloat. There's high diesel cost, fuel, weak naira, there's no credit. Now, the government wants to take another loan of $1.75 billion. The government says it needs this loan to stabilize the economy. But small business owners might argue the economy's never really been stable for them. What's your take on that?
Well, you are very right. Absolutely correct. For us, it's a different ballgame because for small business owners, the word stability feels like a distant dream because you see that every day prices keep going up. The cost of diesel keep eating the roof. Forex is unstable. Inflation is eroding our profits, and credit is almost inaccessible. So for us, when borrowing sometimes may be stability for macroeconomics, it is destabilizing the microeconomy. So you begin to wonder, stabilize for who? Well, we are not saying that borrowing is bad. We know that borrowing is not too bad. It is targeted to pain points that ordinary Nigerians face and even MSMEs. Our concern has been that past borrowing has always been going down to debt servicing, filling budget gaps, and not providing practical solutions like lowering energy costs, providing affordable credit, and even improving infrastructure for all of us. So this means that if this new loan is taken, if care is not taken, and it goes down the way the old pattern has always been, the risk of deepening the public debt without improving the life of every Nigerian is always there. And for us, it's a big concern.
So, right. Has there been any recent borrowing actually that reached your members? Because when loans like this come, we rarely hear about, direct support for small businesses. So has there been any recent borrowing that, have reached your members in any tangible way, either by grants, infrastructure, access to Forex, anything at all?
Unfortunately and very sadly, the answer is no to most MSMEs. Yes, while government used to announce various intervention programs, maybe through Bank of Industry, through CBN, through SMIDAN and all of that, there are always major barriers that disturb or inhibit small business owners for accessing it. It could sometimes be collateral requirements that are too high. It could be that the process is too bureaucratic. It could be that the disbursement is so low. Even when it comes to infrastructure, you look at all the industrial hub we have, it's a nightmare. Even the market themselves is a nightmare. To bring in raw material to the country, it's a big issue. You have to go to black market before you begin to access funds in terms of forex and all of that. Right. So, like I said before, while technically borrowing money is not, but if it is not going to tangible, direct, measurable impact on business owners, then it becomes an issue. For us, it's been very, very low.
Right, and of course, we've also seen that, you know, people like the FIRS, the customs, even in Abuja, they've talked about, you know, revenue claims and, you know, seeing massive revenue. And yet, the government says it still needs to borrow some more. Now, do you think this is a revenue problem or a spending or accountability problem for Nigeria?
For me, I think it is the two, but I would say that spending and accountability are the bigger issues. On the revenue side, you see that we have big record for revenue collection, but you discover that even the tax net is still very, very narrow. A lot of potential taxpayers are not in the formal system, they're in the informal sector. So that means that a lot still needs to be done. You also discover that there's a lot of leakages in revenue collection today. However, even the money that is collected is not always efficiently used. Most times it goes to recurrent expenditure like salaries, overhead, debt servicing, and all of that, leaving very little capital for projects at that. And these are the ones that can directly benefit small business owners. So for me, the real issue is how the money is spent, the transparency of that spending, and whether it is measurable, whether the impact is actually measurable. So for us, we feel the best thing is to plug leakages, reduce corruption, and make spending more productive so that we will not always need to borrow again.
Okay, Dr. Femi, so if you had the opportunity to meet the president, or peradventure the president is watching right now and he's wondering, Femi, what can I do that will actually help small businesses? What will you tell him?
Well, that's a great question. How the opportunity comes at a time. Well, I will highlight a number of issues to you. First is the issue of energy. I will encourage you to please lower energy costs and operational costs for MSMEs. It is not a bad idea if there's a reason for us to subsidize diesel so that businesses can thrive. It is also good for us to provide stable power supply, particularly for industrial hubs and clusters where we have small business owners. When it comes to energy too, it is not a bad idea to give government support to local production and distribution of affordable supply and renewable energy, particularly for small business enterprise. Secondly, I will also talk about market access and access to credit. It is fine if government can create a window whereby MSMEs can access single-digit interest rates with little or no collateral and with quick disbursement. That would also be great. I also talk about Forex. It's fine for us to look at how a government can dedicate an MSME Forex allocation channel for those who want to import in raw materials, equipment, and all of that, so that we don't need to be going to go to black market again. I also talk about the Nigerian force policy, whereby procurement by MDAs should go directly to local manufacturers and those who have services to render locally. This is going to be a big boost for MSMEs because government is always the biggest spender at any time. I also talk about infrastructure too. There's need for government to look at how to upgrade our industrial hubs, our incubation center, workplaces, and all of that. If we have clusters that are affordable and it is available everywhere for us to use with water, power, security, logistics, and all of that, I think it will go a long way to grow and boost MSMEs. I also talk about government policies. Many of our policies here is not stable, and some are not even very clear. So it's good for government to also look at how we can stabilize policies over the years so that MSMEs can plan. I also talk about ease of doing business. It's very difficult doing business in this part of the world. So it's good for government to look at how they can simplify registration, licensing, and all of that, and bring everything to one-stop portal for payments, digitalize the process, reduce the timelines, and remove human interface completely from the process before. I also mentioned the issue of support for MSMEs by creating an MSME-specific support framework. In today's Nigeria, it is one size fits all. One law, one policy cannot work for all sectors of the MSMEs. One tailor shop is different from a large factory. So there is need for us to tailor our policies to these separate segments so that they can also be able to thrive. I also talk about corruption. Corruption is one of the reasons why we don't have intervention fund getting to MSMEs. So it's good for government to also create an ecosystem whereby stakeholders like ourselves can come in, have a handshake with government, so that when they are intervention fund, there will be transparency, and the fund would actually go to the right MSMEs that needs it. When it comes to corruption too, we can also need to block leakages so that those funds that are being collected from looted from those who loot them can now go directly to MSMEs and support them to be able to.
Right.
MSMEs make about 80% of the jobs. so they need to be supported.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Femi, for giving us the insight as to what's going on with MSMEs. And we hope that your complaints and your suggestions get to the right ear. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
I hope so too. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now let's head to the aviation sector, where Air Peace has dismissed reports linking its crew to alcohol use following the July 13, 2025 incident at the Port Harcourt International Airport, insisting that the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau has yet to formally communicate any official findings to the airline. In a Friday statement, the airline described the report as misleading and clarified that neither it nor its crew had received any confirmation of the alleged preliminary report. More than a month after the incident and the immediate post-incident alcohol testing of the crew, providing details of its internal response to the Port Harcourt incident, Air Peace confirmed that the captain of the affected flight was immediately grounded and relieved of flying duties for disregarding standard go-around procedures and failing to observe crew resource management principles. The airline stressed that the action was not related to alcohol use, as no such test results have been formally communicated by the NSIB. And meanwhile, a co-pilot, David Bennett, and a cabin crew member, Maduneme Victory, have rejected claims by the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau that they tested positive for alcohol and drugs following a runway incursion in Port Harcourt. The Air Peace aircraft veered off the runway on July 13th, prompting toxicology tests. The NSIB said alcohol and cannabis were detected, but the crew disputed the findings. Co-pilot David Bennett argued the tests were done at an unregistered lab and results delayed by 10 days. He insisted he neither drinks nor smokes and criticized the process as unprofessional. Cabin crew member Maduneme Victory also denied the allegations, calling the report an attempt to damage their reputations. Both staff noted that Air Peace conducts random tests and maintains a strict no alcohol policy for crew. And to security forces in Edo State, they are taking the battle against kidnapping deep into the forest. A special squad, codenamed Operation Flush Out Cultists and Kidnappers, has dismantled suspected hideouts across multiple communities in what authorities describe as a preventive strike aimed at crippling criminal networks before they strike again. News Central's Ameze Bazwaye has more.
For hours, security personnel drawn from the army, police and local vigilantes trekked through dense forest in Esan and Ovia, pulling down makeshift camps believed to have served as kidnappers' bases. While no arrests have yet been made, officials say the discovery and destruction of the camps is a major step in disrupting criminal strongholds.
We've been able to go deep into the forest. We've carried out various search, even with the help of our drones and military personnel, hunters from various neighborhoods.
There's no hiding place for any kidnapper or criminals in Edo State. It's a continuous exercise. As we are even going now, we'll stop in any of the bushes we see that we think kidnappers are in, just like we did in Ifon Road, and we are still going to Okmila. So it's a continuous thing. Since they say they are not going to rest, we are not resting either. The governor is resolute, no going back.
The operation, monitored by Governor Monday Okpeolo's security aides, covered Ovia Northeast, Esan Northeast, Esan West and Esan Southeast local government areas. Along the Benin-Akure Road, where passengers were recently kidnapped, operatives recovered locally made firearms, including double-barrel guns and live cartridges. Community leaders say the intervention comes as a relief after years of being overwhelmed by kidnappers.
On Saturday here, we recover more than 9 people from the bush where they kidnapped. With the assistance of the governor and the vigilante and the hunters. So now, to make sure say this very road, everything is okay. everywhere is calm for everybody to pass.
You can even see now he's clearing the road to make it wide so that when you are here, you'll be seen far. It's a good effort. We are happy. So we thank our Honorable Governor for this laudable effort.
Beyond forest raids, the squad also staged a show of force across parts of the state, including Ekpoma, Irua, Uromi, and Sube, to reassure residents and send a strong warning to criminal gangs.
Each abandoned camp discovered by the Edo State Security Task Force is a reminder of lives disrupted and families torn apart. But it also tells of a turning tide. As security personnel move further into the bushes, there is a renewed sense of hope that safety can now return to those communities that were once held hostage by kidnapping. In Edo, for News Central, I'm Meze Bazwaye.
Following the recent disbandment of the response squad of the Abia State Police Command over alleged acts of misconduct by the Commissioner of Police, residents say many factors are responsible for the actions of some officers. Some say they are questionable elements who get recruited into the force, just as others believe that issues of misconduct within the force is in-depth and will be hard to control. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Danladi Issa, recently announced the constitution of a new tactical squad.
Government didn't handle it well. They didn't enforce anything. They didn't do anything. They allowed it to escalate. And sometimes they think, the police think it is the normal thing. It has been happening. You know, all this recruitment without due processes and all the rest of that is where I think the problem is. Before you recruit a personnel that is going to be in charge of, or that is a security personnel, you have to go extra mile.
The police supposed to, apart from their normal training, they're supposed to be giving them orientation through the police public relation committee. Organize all the policemen once in a while in a hall and give them orientation and give them another training on how to handle God, on how to handle civilians, how to handle people they are securing. By giving them orientation, giving them more training, not the one they have from the police college. So
incurable disease. Any of them any punishment here in the answer. Nigeria won a law.
Thank you for staying with us. At least 13 civilians, including 4 children, were killed in shelling by Sudanese paramilitaries in the Darfur city of El Fasher. Sources say the 2-day bombardment struck residential areas and the city's central market, with shells hitting civilian homes. The Rapid Support Forces have stepped up their offensive to seize El Fasher, the last major city not under their control. Local resistance groups reported RSF fighters stormed Western District, abducting residents. Satellite images showed over 50 munition strikes in a nearby displacement camp. The UN says more than 300 civilians have died in the camp since the siege began. With aid cut off, many survivors are fleeing on foot to the town of Tawila, where aid groups are treating hundreds of injured. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the long-awaited verdict in the treason trial of former President Joseph Kabila has been postponed. Military judges agreed to reopen the case following a last-minute appeal from the prosecution, calling for the charges to be reclassified as espionage. The dramatic turn came just hours before the decision was expected, throwing the high-profile case back into uncertainty. Kabila, who led the country from 2001 to 2019, has consistently denied all allegations. The military court now faces renewed scrutiny as it re-examines the evidence under the more serious charge. No new dates for the verdict has been set, but legal observers expect proceedings to resume in the coming weeks.
Crime d'espionnage. En étant étranger, il a dû s'infiltrer pendant une longue période, et c'est cette longue période qui nous permet de dire qu'aujourd'hui il est espion, et qu'il n'étant pas sûrement déterminant sur la question des nationalités, il reste étranger et en ce titre infiltré et pour toute la période de 18 ans a été espion et nous l'estimons ainsi. C'est tout un travail, il fallait travailler sur les questions et les allégations, ce qui n'était pas évident et aujourd'hui les allégations permettent à se conduire sur ce terrain de l'espionnage. C'est la raison pour laquelle nous avons choisi de l'évoquer devant la haute cour militaire qui a statué et qui va nous donner son...
And Togo has summoned the European Union ambassador in protest against a resolution from the European Parliament over the detention of a dual Irish Togolese national. On Thursday, the European Parliament passed the resolution urging Togolese authorities to release Abdulaziz Goma, one of 14 people jailed in February for allegedly plotting against state security. Goma was arrested after taking part in banned opposition protests back in 2018. The resolution claims he has been detained in secret and subjected to torture. Togo's foreign ministry has rejected the accusations and described the EU's move as a clear interference in a purely judicial and sovereign matter. The development comes as Togo faces renewed political unrest over controversial constitutional reforms. Critics say the changes could allow President Faure in power for 20 years to further entrench his rule. Nepal's former Chief Justice Sushila Kaki will be sworn in as Prime Minister. She was sworn in on Friday after days of violent anti-corruption protests forced the resignation of KP Sharma Oli. President Ramchandra Paudel office confirmed Kaki, 73, would take oath 9 p.m. Kaki, the country's first female Chief Justice, has long spoken against entrenched corruption. Nepal, with a population of 13 million, plunged into chaos this week after security forces cracked down on youth-led demonstrations, leaving at least 51 people dead in the worst unrest since the 2008 abolition of the monarchy. Protest leaders operating under the banner Gen Z backed Kaki's appointment under an agreement to dissolve parliament. The army has since enforced a curfew to restore order. U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday announced that the suspect has been taken into custody over the killing of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk after a massive manhunt. It comes on the third day of an intensified manhunt for the killer, the prominent conservative activist and close ally of Trump who was shot dead at a university event in Utah, even as the authorities also released his mugshot to the public. Authorities say the shooter opened fire from a rooftop at Utah Valley University during a public debate. A single round struck Kirk in the neck. Video shows him reaching up before collapsing on stage. The killing has stunned the nation and drawn widespread condemnation.
With a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody. Okay? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor, everybody did a
And in business, the Tafawa Balewa Square, or TBS, is the location of the 2027 edition of the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. And ahead of Nigeria's 2025 Independence Day celebration, the management board of the TBS has expressed its commitment to preserving Nigeria's rich heritage and honoring the country's national symbols by renovating the historic location. The board said that historically, the Tafawa Balewa Square had been a symbol of Nigeria's independence and democracy, where the Union Jack was lowered and the Nigerian flag was hoisted for the first time on October 1st, 1960.
And friends of the media, let me start first of all by congratulating both sides on this remarkable PPP. It is what really makes Nigeria and Lagos who we are. Restoration of the independence site signals this administration's seriousness and commitment to our Nigeria First intervention. What Tafawa Balewa Management Board has been seeking to achieve, and I've known about this project even from the first time I visited here officially and went around myself looking for the right partner, and we're glad that we found the right partner for this project in Lafarge, Africa.
That the Tafawa Balewa Square Management Board announces the restoration and beautification of key monuments around the complex, notably the Independence Memorial Obelisk and the Remembrance Arcades. This initiative is part of our commitment to preserving Nigeria's rich heritage and honoring our national symbols.
Basically demonstrate our commitment.
The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has converted Petroleum Prospecting License 202 to Petroleum Mining Lease 66, marking the first such upgrade under the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. This milestone, following the 2020 marginal field bid round, signals enhanced regulatory clarity and investor confidence in Nigeria's oil sector. Ignitia Energies, a key stakeholder, plans to drill at least 5 wells, aiming to boost production by 7,500 barrels per day by first quarter of 2026. The move underscores Nigeria's commitment to increasing crude output and highlights the transformative impact of the new regulatory framework. And in sport, Nigeria's Chukwuebuka Enekwechi advanced to the men's shot put final at the 2025 World Athletics Championships in Tokyo with a throw of 20.83 meter. The national record holder placed 5th in Group A and 7th overall, securing a spot among the top 12. It is his 5th World Championships appearance, offering him redemption after narrowly missing the final in Budapest. Meanwhile, Nigeria's women fell short in the discus throw. Chioma Onyekwere Lyons opened with 59.45 meters but foiled her remaining attempt, ending her 4th World Championship campaign outside the qualifying range. Obiageri Amechi, competing in her 2nd global outing, managed throws of 55.69 meter and 48.82 meter to finish 16th in her group and 33rd overall, missing out on a place in the final. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. We told you that rescue team pulled 4 alive. Others feared trapped as building collapsed in Yaba. NAFDAC seized 1.2 billion naira worth of fake malaria drugs smuggled into Lagos. We also told you that 13 were killed, including children, as RSF rained shells on El Fasho homes and market. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Queen Celestine.